KNAC.com, the loudest.com on the planet. Thanks for tuning in. We have the pleasure of talking to Nige, Rockett of legendary thrash band Onslaught. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very good, thanks, considering the circumstances. And yourself?
The same. Unique circumstances, to say the least, going on in the world today. But we're
Yeah.
we're gonna trek through it, and metal is definitely going to help us to get through that, right?
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah. Now you guys are on uh, the cusp of releasing your new record, Generation Antichrist.
Yep.
What can fans expect from this new page in Onslaught?
Um, a very angry record.
Good.
Um, angry music for angry people.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've gone a little. We had some discussions before we wrote this record about the direction we should take. Last two albums have been, I would say, a little more technical.
Hmm.
We've gone away from that on this album. We decided to take a little step backwards in the hope that it's going to take us several steps forward. We've stripped things back, gone back to basics in some ways, gone back to our roots and our influences, and it's just so raw. The overall thing is just full of energy. And yeah, for me, it's the best record we've done. I'm sure you hear that all the time from bands, but I do genuinely believe that. I really do.
Well, I think with the history that has shown in the past few years, bands and metal have just been constantly putting out great records in the last few years, and I myself have no doubt you guys are going to put out another phenomenal record.
Thank
Your
you.
discography there's pretty much every record that you've had, even in Search of Sanity, like all the albums were like really powerhouse records. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
for to be able to do this since like what the mid to early '80s. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a true testament to a band.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't quite. Obviously, we had a kind of hiatus, but and we don't have the output of albums like Slayer or
Mhm.
Overkill, for example. But I'd like to think each and every Onslaught record is unique. It has its own identity. And I don't think we've ever made the same record twice.
Mhm.
And as much as you mentioned in Search of Sanity, I do have a kind of beef with that album in
Oh.
ways because it's for me it's not truly representative of Onslaught.
Mhm.
Whereas the demos for that album are they're really full on thrash,
Mhm.
But I think with being signed to a major label and all the things that happened, everything got kind of diluted. Um, and for as great songs they are, the production and the way things went really sort of weakened it for me.
Mhm.
And my plan is over the next few years or few albums is to record that whole album.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean we did we re-recorded Shell Shock as a bonus for six. We've re-recorded the track In Search of Sanity for this one as a bonus,
Oh.
and it's just brought those songs to life for me. It's made them the songs that they should have sounded.
Mhm.
And Sanity just sounds wicked. Dave's done a stunning job on the vocals on it, and the production obviously matches the rest of the record. It's just so aggressive, and I just so wish the record would have sounded like that when it came out originally.
No, of course, and it was a different time then, a different mindset,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you mentioned the hiatus that you guys, you pretty much skipped the '90s and all the weirdness that was going on with music. Well,
yeah.
what was it like? What were you thinking then?
I don't know. It was a weird time because it should have been when Onslaught broke massively.
Hmm.
Us and Slayer signed major deals at around the same time. Um, we made the wrong decision of whom we signed to, and that caused sort of all kinds of problems. It took the fun away from being in a band. It became all very kind of corporate, and we were controlled by the label, and
Hmm.
it was just horrible. It just wasn't enjoyable being in the band.
All right.
Um, and that's what led to us splitting. I mean, we all kind of started to fall out, and everything went wrong, and that was it then. And grunge came along, and that was just the final nail in the coffin for it. And it was just like, now this is no good for us anymore, and we split.
Yeah.
But what I will say is those thrash bands who rode that out, they're the ones who became successful. They kept going and rode the storm. Whether they some of the albums they put out at the time were not their best, maybe, but they still kept that fan base going and growing, and it paid dividends for them. Now we're playing catch up.
When you decided to get the band back together, I mean, you guys came with a vengeance. Like, Killing Peace was like an amazing release, and then from there on forward, like just another outstanding release after another.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously came back on the basis of the first two albums. Really, they got re-released in 2002, and we knew nothing about it at all. Kind of found out, I think, around 2004 that they come out and got in touch with the label who released them. Who were fantastic. They paid us everything they owed us, and
great.
That was brilliant. But the fact that was that we've seen the amount of sales that happened in that 2 years, and it was, wow, really, is there this much interest in Onslaught? So that really got the fires going again.
Oh, good.
And then obviously with the way things ended, it was a case of wanting to put it right. And for me, the Killing Peace album was the album that In Search of Sanity should have been. That was the fire in my belly to get that album written and be as good as it is, and try and lay the ghost of In Search of Sanity to rest.
And like when you were starting to get, like you said, the fire burning in you, when did you guys hit the stage? Were you guys playing shows? Were you seeing the kind of results or the feedback from people?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, as soon as people got wind that we were back together, the shows were just rolling in. And the thing we had to remember is that we'd been laid off for so long. I'd not even picked up a guitar for 10 years. Oof. And we hadn't been on stage for 14 years. So it was a massive mountain to climb when we came back. And I think some of the first shows we did were some big festivals in Europe with Exodus and the likes of that. So it was a baptism of fire, really, when we came back.
Yeah.
We were obviously a little rusty. So again, we were playing catch up on that, but it didn't take us long. I guess within a year, we'd got everything back firing, probably even better than they were back in the day.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, no pressure. You're in a huge festival crowd. It's like, oh shit, man.
yeah. It was because I mean there was some serious crowds. I mean, that was some of the biggest shows we played immediately on coming back. But fantastic. Couldn't believe it to come back after all those years and just be thrown into it at that level was amazing.
And I would assume now you guys are really itching to get back on stage too, right?
Yeah, this is the biggest. Obviously, the whole situation's horrible, but
yeah,
especially with the new album, it was a big decision for us to make because we're seeing lots of bands canceling their releases and delaying the releases. And we thought, no, let's not do this. And we looked around at all the other bands who were due to release records and seeing what they're doing. And we looked at like Testament, still putting their album out, Lamb of God. We looked at those and they thought, well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. There's a reason they're putting the records out. So we're going to go ahead with it.
Yeah.
And we looked at the fact that there's no festivals, no shows. Metalheads are going to want music.
Totally.
New music, preferably. So let's put an album out. Let's get the album out. Hope it goes great, gets a great reception, and then we can start booking shows. I mean, we're in the process of booking shows now. It's kind of tricky because promoters are still being a little wary, which is fair enough.
Right.
But we're booking shows for 2021 now, so hopefully we're going to be a bit ahead of the game with a really good record.
Yeah, there's a little bit of inconsistency with like booking, at least in America. Like it's still like a lot of uncertainty, whereas Europe, it just seems like they're more opening up a little bit.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of interviews, and Australia have started shows in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, great!
Albeit on a smaller level, but it's great to see that people are actually starting to book stuff and things are starting to move. So yeah, let's just keep our fingers crossed that it happens soon.
Yeah, I think it's important to like kind of, I think, look towards the future already and kind of just, put yourself in that position already. Try and get yourself out of this mindset, like, because like I mean, we mentioned the pandemic and the whole lockdown, and it's a really unique situation, I think, for all of us,
Mhm.
and definitely I think putting out an album during these times is a great idea because, like you said, the metalheads are going to be at home and building up this
Yeah,
anger and needing something to listen to, and what better?
yeah, exactly. It's got to work. I'm sure. I don't see it as a negative at all. The only negative is that we've lost some massive shows over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We had some huge festivals to play, which would have been amazing. Of course, they've all been moved to 2021, so we haven't
Right,
lost them. But it would have been nice to have these riding on the back of a fresh album, But
right.
that's it happens. We all have to live with it. All the bands are in the same situation.
Yeah.
It's just how we deal with it. We've decided to deal with it this way and hope it works out for us.
Right, and I think you guys were set to play the California Death Fest out here, like this month too.
Yeah,
But had that been rescheduled as well?
yeah. Both Maryland, we were due to do Maryland Death
Maryland Death
Fest
Fest, right? Hmm.
and California Death Fest. So we've both been rescheduled for next year. So we've got both of those again. So,
Mm.
but we were due to come to the States in October, November. Tour was being scheduled. All the work visas were done and everything,
Yeah.
well ahead of the game. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So we've got to start all over again on the tour now. So.
Right, right. Now let's talk about Generation Antichrist. You guys are pumped to release this pretty soon, and now you have more lineup changes. You got a new drummer, my understanding, a new guitarist, and also vocalist.
Yeah, the drummer and the guitarist have been with us for over 2 years now.
Hmm.
Um, James, our drummer, was actually going to join the band in 2011 when Steve Grice left.
Hmm.
But he had a serious medical condition come up, and I said, James, you really need to go away for a year and get this sorted because your life is more important than anything
Of
else.
course.
So unfortunately, he couldn't join the band then, but fortunately, fully recovered now.
Great, great to hear.
And he kept on at me all the time, dropping me emails, Nige, if the situation ever arises, I want to be back, man. So it did, and obviously it's great to have him on board because he's such an outrageous drummer, absolutely outrageous drummer.
Hmm.
So yeah, and our new guitarist Wayne Dorman came in over 2 years ago, and probably the biggest of all change was the vocalist with Cy Keeler leaving, which could have been kind of disastrous, but it's turned out exactly the opposite.
Hmm.
Cy's got a new career, I should say.
Right.
As things, obviously, you can't always earn enough money on the road on a regular basis to sustain you. And Cy said, look, I need to get full-time work. And he's really enjoying what he's doing, which is fair enough. You can't argue with that. And he said, guys, I really don't think I can give Onslaught the full touring commitment once the album comes out, which would have been a big problem. What's the point of releasing a great new album and then you can't tour it properly? So that wasn't going to work for either of us. So we both agreed amicably to go our separate ways. Luckily, a friend of ours, Dave Garnett, was waiting in the wings for this to happen. And he said, we've known him for a long time, and he was aware of the situation. He said, look, guys, can I have a crack at this? I said, yeah, sure, man. Previous band he was in with before was his vocals were very different, and I thought, well, no, this vocal style's not going to fit Onslaught whatsoever. But he's a very talented guy. He's got a lot in his locker, and he pulled this voice out from that nobody's ever heard. And he recorded some demos of the new tracks for us. It's like, wow, this is it, like, amazing. So he's very, very, very new to the studio. He's done 2 albums, but that's all self-produced. He's had no vocal producer in with him at all. So I called up an old friend of mine, a guy called Peter Hinton, who produced the first 2 Saxon albums, Strong Arm of the Law and Denim and Leather.
Nice.
And I said, Pete, can you come in and help out with the vocals on this? Because I think Dave's very nervous. He's got it in him, but it needs you to pull it out. And Pete came in for the vocal sessions, and he's such a chilled guy, and he's such a lovely guy, and he just coaxed out this amazing performance out of Dave. Like it was just so relaxed, but Dave was so angry at the same time. But it was really cool to watch. Like it was great.
Again, talking to Nige, Rockett, guitars from Onslaught. The Religious Suicide, the single or the video that you guys put out, it's a good
Yeah.
example of what we have to look forward to. Like his voice really fits, and it's like angry, definitely angry, which is really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he surprised himself because once he was working with Pete and the engineer, who were both very experienced people, like, and they started to get it out of him, and he came in and sort of listened to it back, and he's thinking, "Wow, is this really me?" Like, so that kind of inspired him even more.
Nice.
So it was them pushing him, and then he was pushing himself. It was a nice circle of energy going on in the studio, and it's just worked incredible.
How much of the record did you have complete when you were between Cy and Dave?
Everything was written.
Hmm.
the whole the whole album was written and demoed, with vocals and everything. So we were ready to go. So it was a it was a fine line, because we had a festival in Sweden that Cy couldn't make, and Dave agreed to step into that as well.
Wow.
So not only learning the album ready for going in straight into the studio, he had to learn a live set, which is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And all this in 2 weeks. The guy's like a machine.
2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah, and he pulled it off. He really pulled it off. 2 weeks to do that. And it was like we went basically straight. We went to Sweden, played the festival, flew back, and he was in the studio like 4 or 5 days later.
That's great.
Amazing.
That's really good work ethic. Yeah. Tell me about the songwriting process as far as the early albums and now this new Generation Antichrist.
Yeah, so a little different for this one, because obviously, as I said, we've had some lineup changes, and I'd lost my kind of on the last two albums, Sounds of Violence and Six. I had a writing partner, Andy Rosser Davis, who was our lead guitarist at the time. And we basically wrote all the musical stuff for both albums. We just sat in the studio together, and bounced ideas off each other, and that was the way we worked then. Obviously, Andy's no longer with us. So it was a case of how are we going to approach this? We're not a band to write albums in a studio, in a rehearsal room. It doesn't work for us. I don't know why. I just find it very confusing. Sometimes you start going round in circles, and it doesn't seem very productive. So it was the kind of thing. We just had the lineup changes as well. So I thought, right, I'm going to do this, go back to old school Onslaught, how it used to be when I basically wrote most of the albums myself. I spoke to Jeff about it, our bassist, beforehand, and sort of discussed the direction we were going, and we both agreed that we should take a little look at the past, with the intentions of going one step back and 3 steps forward, and that's what we did. I set about stuff, and once I kind of sat in and got my ideas flowing, I was really enjoying it. It was kind of nervy because I had nobody to say this is good or this is bad or this is whatever, because it was all my own decisions then. But I know what's right for Onslaught. And of course, every time I'd get a section of song, link pieces together, I'd send it out to the rest of the guys for their thoughts and their inputs and what have you. Me and Wayne were bouncing ideas back and forward. But yeah, I mean, it worked great. I think all the guys are blown away with the album. They all had their own inputs to it. Maybe not Dave so much because he wasn't involved in the writing stages, but even in the when we were in the studio, I needed a couple of sections of vocals, and Dave come up with stuff straight away. It was just really cool. So I'm really looking forward to the future of working with him on the next one as well. So yeah, I mean, it was a different process, but we got the same results, I think.
Great. And
We got an Onslaught record.
was that kind of why there was such a large gap from 2013 and 6 and up till now?
No, the reason what happened is we released 6 in 2013, and we basically toured for two years plus that album. So as soon as we finished, wound up the touring for that, and we were intending to start work on a new record, Along came the 30th anniversary of the Force album. Of course, loads of fans are coming. Oh, you need to tour this in its entirety, play the full Force. And okay, so we decided to do, I think, a European tour on that, and then okay, Lord, let's take this elsewhere, and it ended up going on for over 2 years. It was mad. For a 1 year anniversary, it went on for over 2 years, and then we're way behind schedule. So we've basically been touring then for 4 years, and a couple of guys I think really felt a bit burnt out by it. Mike, our drummer, I just got in a new relationship, and I just don't think they wanted to face that kind of heavy touring again, because that's what we do. We make a record and we tour it heavily. It's the only way we can gain a decent income these days from the band. So that's what we did. But I don't think they were truly cut out for that much touring, and that's the reason they both kind of called it a day at the same time. So yeah, we had to find somebody else, but it's worked in our favor. We always use the negative energy to build it in a positive way when we're rebuilding it back. But
right,
yeah.
And then also between the gap, you guys had also released like a live album and DVD, and
yeah, I mean that was obviously intentional, because we seen the gap coming. It was going to be a long time, so we thought we best put some material out just so we don't disappear from people's mindsets, which was kind of cool. It filled the gap for a little while. It was a good product, and I think the fans seemed to like it. But I think at the start of 2018, the label were starting saying, "Well, where's the record, guys?" They've been pretty good. They've been really good with us about it. They haven't really hassled us too badly, so there's been no real pressure. And then when we started to send them some tracks, and they were hearing things, they were blown away by it. So they just let us get on with things, which is very cool.
Right.
Very cool indeed. It just feels like back when we were with Music for Nations, back for the Force album. It was like a family with AFM, and we're really happy with them.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about AFM. This is going to be like your third release, I believe, with them, and so they've been taking care of you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting better every album, and I've noticed, particularly on this one, we just re-signed a new contract.
Congrats!
So that I guess that speaks volumes for what they're doing for us and what we're doing for them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, it's all on a personal level. I can phone up and speak to the head of the company any time of the day. Basically, we've got that kind of relationship, which I think is really good. I mean, obviously, you get labels sniffing around you and asking for this and that, but I'm not interested in that. I want a stable base where the band can grow and grow. Mm-hmm. We've made mistakes by signing to wrong labels before, and I don't want to make that same mistake again.
No, it seems like AFM is a good home for you guys, and that's one less thing you got to worry about. You can just focus on, well, if you can't tour right now, but at least you can, put out some killer records.
Yeah, that's how I do push them, because we self-manage the band. Myself and Jeff, we don't have any management company. We do look after all that ourselves. Mm-hmm. But I am pushing them to the limits, I must say, mm-hmm. for this album, because I think the product's worth it, and I think if they invest wisely in this, it's going to benefit both band and label. So why not?
Being a self-managed band, and like it's like it's a lot of DIY, and it has to be both frustrating and at the same time rewarding, because like it's a learning process as you go on, right? I mean, even from back when you guys started, even till now, the change in, let's say, social media and the relevance. Till back in the day, tape trading was the way social media worked and how you got music out.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I mean, I'm not very social media savvy, really. I mean, I can obviously, I'd love to go onto all the medias and talk to the fans, and I do that all the time. Mm. But as far as the technical side of things, I'm pretty clueless, and Jeff deals with all that. Mm-hmm. But again, bouncing back to AFM, they just give us full control of everything we do. Mm-hmm. We keep everything pretty much in house. We do, aside from the last album, 6, Jeff does all the artwork for the band, the sleeve designs and everything else. We work for a great agency who have taken such a great load off of our shoulders because whereas the previous agents, they would book our shows and that would be it. But our new agency we're working with now, they book the shows, they book the flights, they book the accommodation, they book absolutely everything. So we do nothing. All they say is turn up to the show, it's booked, and that's it. And that's all we have to do. So that's taken a massive load off of us to be able to work on other things, like promotion for the band and do lots of interviews and speak to lots of people. And it's working so well.
And I want to thank you for your time. Again, we're talking with Nige Rockett, guitarist for legendary thrash band Onslaught. We're here talking about Generation Antichrist, soon to be out through AFM Records. Let's talk a little bit about the scene when you grew up. How much of an impact was metal to you to form Onslaught?
I came from a more so hardcore punk side of things because when Onslaught formed, thrash metal really didn't exist. You obviously had the Motorhead were one of my favorite bands at the time, and a band called Discharged were my really all-time favorite and still are my all-time favorite band. And they're the band who kind of inspired me to form Onslaught. And they're still going great guns today. They just made a great album. So that's my main inspiration came from them. We started 82, late 82, whatever, under the influence of Discharge and Motorhead. And basically, as we grew as musicians, we forged into the more Motorhead side of the influence as opposed to more Discharge side, What made me want to be in a band was watching these bands play live. I used to follow my favorite bands all over the UK. We'd sleep rough. Me and friends of mine, we'd sleep anywhere we could sleep. We'd always get into the shows on guest lists because we were such known faces to the bands by then, where we'd follow them everywhere. And it just got to the point. It's like, wow, why are we doing this, guys? Like, we're following these bands. We love what's going on. Why haven't we got our own band? So he said there was a slight problem, the fact that none of us could play an instrument. So that was kind of it's
kind of important.
Kind of a bit, yeah, it was kind of a bit tough at the time. But a friend of mine who was in another very known punk band called the Vice Squad, he lived very close to me, and he said, "No, just come down. I'll teach you what I know," which wasn't a great deal. But, it all started from there. So yeah, I mean, it was I just wanted to play so much. Within 6 months, I was really pretty competent at it then, and we just got some real lucky breaks, and things just snowballed, and it just got big fast.
Well, what were some of the concerts that you remember that just like blew your mind? Who caught your attention?
Well, there was this one massive punk tour that went around the UK. I think it would have been 81, maybe. I think something around it. It was Discharge, The Exploited, GBH, and these were like the real top punk bands in the UK at the time. And we went to a lot of the shows on that tour. And they were big venues with big audiences, It wasn't little clubs. It was like proper thousands of people there, and it was incredible seeing these bands who you usually see in really little sweaty clubs playing in this situation. It was like, oh man, I've got to do this. I really have to do this. And we did. We were true to our word, and we did that. But so many members of things that went on. I nearly killed myself and the guy I formed a band with.
Oh, man.
On the way back from one of these shows, we had a car crash.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, we nearly killed ourselves. So, but we survived that one, and then we'd formed a band within months of that. So it all turned out positive.
I'm glad you guys survived that, because yeah. Onslaught is definitely like a big thrash name here, and I think when people hear the new album, it's especially in a time now where it just seems like this music is gonna fuel people. It speaks to a generation or generations upon generations.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Especially now, as you say, with what's going on. I mean, this record encapsulates a lot of what's going on.
Hmm.
And I think if it gets the reach, the sky could be the limit with this record. Is I'm really pleased with it. I've never felt this way about a record, and the response I've been getting off of people so far, even just very few people have heard the whole album, but just based on this one track so far, people are
Hmm.
going nuts,
Oh yeah,
which
that
is
video is
which
so
is very cool.
impactful. The song is so impactful. The video is impactful, and you got a winner here.
Yeah, I mean, we've not been allowed any promotion on this.
Oh,
YouTube have refused all the promotion on it.
oh man.
Facebook have refused all promotion on it. It's like
Mm.
they don't, but it's flying.
It's
It's going so well.
it's too real,
So
man. You know the message you guys put out. I mean, that's the tradition with thrash metal. Like, it's sad, but at the same time, it's just it's fitting. It's a soundtrack for today, but it's always been the case. Like the story has never really changed, and it just I think that's one of the prime motivation with thrash metal. Like it brings a message, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure people are gonna once you look into this record, you'll see there's a lot more to the album than initially meets the eye. And when people start to sort of look at things or what are going on right now and read into some of the lyrics, it's gonna I think people are gonna go, whoa, okay.
That's what you want to do. You want to shake people up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that was part of the reason why we looked at let's go a little bit backwards to hopefully take ourselves forward.
Hmm.
And I'm got everything crossed it's going to happen. So
Hmm.
we shall see.
Yeah. And are you in communication with the guys regularly during this whole lockdown pandemic thing going on?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually met up on Monday, Tuesday. We actually started filming for the next video.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was releasing track "Bow Down to the Clowns" on July 17th, I think.
Hmm.
So we did some of the filming for that on Monday, Tuesday, which is obviously the first time I've seen everybody since the festival at the end of January, February, I think. So that was kind of nice. But we're always in touch every day. We all speak to each other every day, all the time. So because there's so much going on at the moment, we need to be really on top of our game at the moment. So everybody needs to be involved and do their little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like, to continue that camaraderie in a band, especially these times. Like, you want to connect with everybody and make sure everybody stays in a good headspace, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like I said, in a negative time, you want everybody to be because if you didn't speak for months on end, people could like get a little indifferent. But
Hmm.
everybody's feeding off each other. Everybody's excited about the record and putting ideas in to do this and do that, and it's really good. It's a good way to get through this as well.
Great, great. Again, Nige Rockett guitars from Onslaught. Their record Generation Antichrist comes out August 7th through AFM Records. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I want to open it
Thank
up
you.
to you. I know I hate to continue talking about this pandemic thing, but what I like to do is just kind of offer the floor to you and kind of speak to your fans.
Well, we've all got to stay positive. We know we're going to get out of this the other side. We know it's going to happen. Um, and I think probably if some of us people would have been in charge, it may have happened a lot quicker. I think a few bad decisions have been made in a lot of places. When some of the decisions are quite obvious what to make, people seem to make the wrong ones. I don't know why. But as I said, we all know we're going to come out of this on the other side. We know there's going to be shows again. We all have to be patient for that, the bands and the fans, and just everybody needs to be safe. We don't want to lose anybody, and that's the way it's got to be. I'm afraid. I mean, we've been locked inside. It's not very nice, but we all stick together. When we're everybody's keeping together online and.
Hmm.
And we got a new album come out, so you need to listen to that to cheer you up.
Totally, totally. And metal is a community that, we got to support each other. And, you keep putting out great records like this, and, we're going to be fine. Just like you said, we're going to be fine. Make sure you follow KNAC.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MetalXCandy. Well, Nige, it's been a pleasure again. Give high horns and a salute to the rest of the band, and
And the do.
we look forward to catching you guys on the road, and look forward to blasting this record on repeat.
For sure, man. Thank you, Francisco.
All right, thank
And
you.
have you a very nice weekend.
You too. Stay safe, stay sane. Cheers.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Bye.